This week on New to You, First Love, Part 2, The Howard Stern Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the New to You show. So I am one of your hosts, John Holt. With me this week,
one of your other hosts, Keith Vincent.
And your other host, Julian Cage.
And our guest, David. Go for it.
Sorry.
David Benjamin,
also known as DB.
All right.
Or if we go into this name game again,
Yeah.
Benji, Dave, David Benjamin. Jammin', as someone said
Jammin'.
the other day. Let's just keep it as one thing.
Dave B. Jammin'.
Great. Make me sound like a music fan. Weezer fan.
Thanks again for joining us, DB.
Of course.
It's great to have you on here.
Great to have you back this week.
Great
You
to
have
be here.
you have a pick this week, and last week we listened to Keith go on and on about Weezer's Pinkerton and his
Mostly
first
just
love.
reliving the old, youthful days. That's pretty much what it became.
But before we get into DB's pick, what's new to you this week, John?
So what's new to me, part the veil a little bit. We record these episodes probably more in advance, especially as summer comes up, than we release them. So
Why would you let them behind the curtain, John?
I don't know.
We're all just one person. We're all
Yeah.
just John Holt doing a bunch of different voices.
That's right. It's really hard to get me talking over myself and have it sound natural.
Well, it's because it's all done in editing.
That's right. I spend so much time editing this show.
You're the new Seth MacFarlane.
Don't compare me to that hack.
He's actually a pretty smart dude, though.
Yeah, I could go on.
Okay. You guys
No,
are
I like
to
him.
get this better than I do. But
I like him on political shows,
Yeah,
but
he's
his biggest fan, and I think that's my problem with him.
Harsh.
see, is this like a thing? Sorry, I want to get your new pick.
Yeah.
But in the animator community, do we not like Seth MacFarlane?
No, I don't think that's true. I think
no,
it's.
well, somebody animates his
pretty
stuff.
tepid.
Well, you know.
I think it's the challenge is his
guy.
humor is very broad, and it's also like shot. Like he's a writer. I mean, that's his jokes are writing. Like that's
he
his
came from
deal.
animation. In
Right, well,
Listen,
he wrote-
but there's no denying his talent. But I just don't like that he inserts so much of himself into everything.
Okay.
Like he can't make a show without doing four of the voices, and he can't make a movie without making himself the star who gets to kiss Charlize Theron.
You know, he dated.
That's what this is about, Charlize Theron.
He dated the wonderful Daenerys Targaryen
Sure.
in real life.
Yep.
Amelia Clark.
Yeah, I think for my this is more personal taste, but the shotgun humor where you throw 100 jokes at the wall and something's gonna hit and someone's gonna laugh. Like it's spatter shot. Like the writing style is like go 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 go. A lot of like pop reference and a lot of like self reference to references you just made, and it's cute, but I think it's broad, and I think it's like it's not my taste of humor,
Well,
and I think it's very easy.
I would say that there are plenty of examples of that being good.
like
right.
memes on the internet.
No,
Right.
like Mystery Science 3000, Mystery Science
Right,
Theater
but see-
3000. Those guys were like joke.
But they go
Not all of
niche-
them are going to be good.
But they go really niche with some of
Right,
their
right.
jokes too, and
You're saying he goes for the low hanging fruit.
right, and so he's shooting out 50 low hanging fruit gags, and
Well,
for
it's
me
fine.
that
I mean,
doesn't
listen,
that doesn't
it's,
click.
It's all personal taste. We're not saying I'm personally not saying he's good or bad. Lots of people I like. I actually have a good friend who I don't know if he still does, but was doing storyboards on his shows, and
Right.
he's a super talented, very funny guy, and he's got lots and lots of funny people and lots of funny stuff. Every time I watch that show, there's certainly laughable moments, but it's just personal taste. It's not my taste. That's all.
But he dated the Khaleesi once again.
Yeah.
If I'm ever invited back, I'll go on a
But
rant
why-
He's
about
got
how.
I think he's got a big personality,
Yeah.
and he definitely puts it out there.
Yeah. It takes a lot of guts to say, like, you know what, I should host the Oscars.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
All right.
my thing that I like and don't like about him is no one saying, hey man, maybe you shouldn't do that.
We like our idols humble.
Yes.
No,
I agree.
I like you don't have to be humble. I just think that you know, if you want to be that, go be a singer. You know, like if you want to sing like Frank Sinatra in all your shows, just put out another record of Frank Sinatra stuff like you always do every 3 years. It's like don't keep trying to prove how great you are.
All right. Sorry for getting us on the subject.
No.
Well, so Jules, what was new to me is a movie that I saw. Maybe I saw it on iTunes. Maybe I saw it in the theaters recently. Was Captain America's Civil War, which is sort of the third in the Captain America series, and
But pretty much it's just an Avengers. It's another Avengers movie.
I would almost say it's honestly it's one of the first like Marvel book movies where I liked it. It was a lot of fun. I think Marvel does a good job with all their movies. They have their movie game on. DC isn't hitting it.
Nope.
DC is hitting the TV stuff okay. They're doing pretty good in that. Marvel's TV stuff is rocky. They've got like
Well, they've got a big deal with Netflix.
their Netflix stuff is great,
Yeah.
and that's like tipped
That's-
off.
Daredevil's wonderful.
They've turned things around. Daredevil's great. I'm excited
Jessica
for Punisher.
Jones.
Jessica Jones I really liked.
I'm
Agents of
excited.
Shield
I
I've
hope
gotten into.
Iron Fist is good.
Yeah.
He's one of my
Oh,
favorites.
that reminds me. I finally finished season 1 of Daredevil, and new to
that's
me
great.
is the costume reveal, which was very disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, it gets better over time.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope
Well,
so.
what you're saying Marvel doesn't have a great TV presence. I think,
I think
that,
he's just talking about
I'm just saying
Agents
it
of
like
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
like Agents of
okay.
Shield. Like I think that DC has they have a they have more shows right now
Yeah.
on TV, and their shows do really well. Mostly because they're also tapping into that like CW like off the heels of Smallville,
Heartthrob of the week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like your Arrows and
Arrow.
your all like that
Flash.
franchise
Yeah.
that they're building there. Marvel's not failing on TV as bad as DC's failing on movies.
Well, you know,
and I don't think Marvel's really failing there either. I think they're doing okay.
Part of the reason why I think Marvel is doing so well is they're very well run. It's a tightly run ship
Yeah.
over there at Marvel, and you kind of have to be when you have so many characters in this expanding universe. You really need to have everything, all your ducks in a row.
Right.
And I don't think DC has that thing together. I just think they're disorganized. They're not. The writing's not good. The directing's not good. Why is
Well,
Zack
it's
Snyder
also-
still directing movies? Can we?
Well, he's not.
Another thing.
That's
like,
the thing too. He got pulled.
that he-
from-
Yeah,
from running the
Batman versus
franchise.
Superman just
That was
killed
it.
him.
He got pulled.
Oh
off.
well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that why did we even give him a second chance or third chance? I mean, come on.
Well, I think the first Superman movie made a lot of money.
And I think like with the Christopher Nolan Batman and your like Watchmen gritty thing, like they were going to become the
Watchmen was terrible.
like
though.
the substantive
Yeah.
superhero movie, but they were mistaking like gritty style for substance, and that was downfall. But that's a little off from where I want to go with
Yeah.
Civil War real quick. I really enjoy the movie. I enjoy all the Marvel movies, like even Thor. You know, the critics, the reviews on Thor when that movie came out were it's a well-made movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like this is the most amazing movie. It's like this is a movie that has the structure.
This is a movie.
Right. Well, no, but it's like it's got the structure.
Short
and pace.
Circuit Part
You'll
2.
enjoy it, but it's not like
It's not going to win an Oscar, but
Right.
they've got their shit together. Like
right.
that's
exactly.
Marvel. Yeah.
And so, with my one sort of like hesitancy going into or out of even Civil War is if you haven't seen Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, if you haven't seen Captain America, Winter Soldier, Avengers, Ultron, maybe even some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you haven't seen like, really, if you haven't watched Ant-Man, if you haven't really invested in the franchise, then there are some things that you're going to like basically there's a difference between a cute nod to the insider and this is an emotional plot point that is important to the drive for why this character is making something happen that's like the key to this thing. And again, it's a sequel, so there is a level where it's important and it should do that, but it's different than say like we're at movie 8 of Harry Potter, so you have all this backstory versus like you're standing at the top of the tree at the tallest branch right now, but you have to have walked out on every branch up to this point to really understand the view. Is sort of that's a weird analogy, I guess that I just put out, but my again, I have seen all these things. I mean, I haven't seen Iron Man 3, and so there's like Pepper Potts is out of the picture, and I didn't know if she was out of the picture.
It has nothing to do with Iron Man 3.
So that was my question was there's an emotional issue there, and because I hadn't seen one movie, I didn't know if I had missed something.
No, he explained it in the movie. He was like, yeah, it's kind of hard to have a relationship when you're stopping giant aliens and then you have to stop a giant city from falling from the
But
sky.
I guess
and
my
then-
There
concern
was a
with
casual reference to they are somehow on the rocks.
right, but my concern there was, okay, why even bother? Like, why mention Pepper Potts? I think the only reason they mention that is because otherwise it looks like a breakup between two men. And as long as like Cap has a love interest
Well,
and
I'll
Iron
explain
Man has a
this.
love interest, then there's two sides.
No,
to that.
here is why I will explain it. That as a not to be a spoiler, that is part of showing his state of mind at the time is why he made the decisions he made. He is in a state of mind where his entire relationship with the woman he loves is at risk of not existing anymore because he's dedicated so much to this organization that is the Avengers and saving the world. And so when he makes the decisions that he makes, it's to try to alleviate some of that pressure so he can go, hopefully he'll live a life where he gets to be with his future wife, hopefully. You know, and I think that all makes perfect sense in the movie. I don't think you have to have seen anything else.
I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not like, I mean, go to X-Men. If you're looking for continuity errors, I mean, somehow Professor X is like walking again, like we're going back in time, but forward in time. I mean, that's a nightmare.
They're going to fix that. They show in the trailer the moment where, well, the two moments.
The
where they
reviews
break his back.
are pretty poor on that one.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
you
gonna
don't
see
say.
it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last one was pretty good though.
Yeah, I did like the last one.
But still,
I haven't liked any of those.
Where
in a
are
long
we in
time.
this timeline? Like, I'm going in.
No, this
into
one I
the
think is the
future.
80s. I think this one's supposed
But
to
in
be
the last one,
80s.
we were deep in the future, and then we came back to the 60s. 70s?
No, remember at the end of the last one, they were back, and it was just like, oh, this
So
is where it all
confusing.
started. We're back in the regular school, and Frasier is the Beast again, and he says hi to
Oh, yes, I do
and
remember. Yeah.
Famke Janssen was there, and
Here's
like
the thing. Time travel is always a really, really risky thing to get into because normally you end up leaving people confused
Especially
and
in
angry.
a franchise.
Yeah, and also, well, I know this is a totally different topic. Game of Thrones, the brand, we're getting into time travel. I don't like
Yeah,
that. It's
yeah.
just starting to confuse us.
yeah.
Well, they're more like veiled flashbacks, you know.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
spoiler alert, not really anymore. I mean,
not very veiled.
Yeah.
But
Kinda.
the
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Douglas Adams says, you know, time travel's really tricky, but mostly because of the grammar, which is I always thought was just like it's the funniest, one of the funniest things from one of his books is like, oh no, time travel's been around for a really long time. It's just people don't know how to describe things that happen, so it's just really too complicated.
One of the this was on the Canon podcast. They talked about this theory that Devin Faraci, a movie critic, has, is that Civil War was essentially a remake of Seven, where Zemo is John Doe, Kevin Spacey's character,
Yeah, what's in
and
the
the
box?
videotape is the box. So they watch the videotape and it tears them apart.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
Baron Zemo.
You know, one last thing on this before we get into the next segment.
Well, not one last thing, because I want to mention
oh,
some stuff
okay.
with Marvel, but go for it.
Well, I want to finish my last
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
as
good.
the last thing. So
Good.
yeah.
Oh, okay, good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, because it doesn't really.
So you're going to
relate.
save your one last
I'm
thing
gonna
till
save
after
my
Okay, good,
one
good.
last thing,
So,
yeah.
well, what I want to say is we're in a time period when all these movies are like, you got to make $1 bajillion, otherwise we're only going to invest like $5 million in their movie. And because of that, we're reaching this really weird time when on a rainy Saturday when we were kids, we could watch interesting, like really weird movies like Buckaroo Banzai and like all these just kind of like Freaked we were talking about recently. There's a void of those movies right now, but I think what Marvel is achieving is like filling in that gap. So they're really well-made movies of that kind of
Yeah,
Right. It's like
weird.
it's like a
Yeah.
glossier trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, I wouldn't say that these movies are subpar. I'm just saying they're perfect
Are you saying
rainy
that
day
trauma is
Saturday
subpar?
movies. You know what I mean? You don't have to invest much in them, and they're well made.
Yep.
They're super well made, and the key to it is just like their casting is super great. To be able to pull off the character of I mean, look at how many Superman movies there have been, and the fact that like Christopher Reeves is still considered the Superman just goes to show that like casting is super key. And the fact that they've cast Robert Downey Jr. as like the Tony Stark is out of this world amazing. Like he is that character and it's amazing. And the tightrope walk that you have to do to play Captain America in this day and age is no easy task. And the fact that Chris Evans just continues to do such a great job of it, in spite of like all these movies that are trying to be like, oh, well, you can't have an all-American guy anymore. It's got to be dark and brooding. It's just like it's an amazing thing that they are able to handle in these movies that we just take for granted because it's just well done. You know, me having seen every comic book movie since Batman in 1989, like I've seen the ebbs and flows, and what they're able to continue to their track record, their batting average is amazing. Yeah. Considering, like, okay, how many good Batman movies have there ever been? Maybe 2. Maybe 3 if you count Batman Returns. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't count that one.
I would. I like that movie.
Batman 1989.
Yeah.
Batman 1969.
Yeah, okay, sorry, 4 movies that are good, yeah.
Batman Begins, Batman
Some
Returns.
days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
That's right.
You know, I don't know if Batman Begins really holds up.
No, none of those movies hold.
Yeah.
None of those.
I think the second one does.
I did. Yeah, he was really Heath Ledger's amazing.
Yeah, he's
But
amazing,
great.
but
It
the
wasn't
whole
just that he was amazing, but like the story worked. Like there was a
No,
dichotomy.
because
There was
it did up until a point until the end when they were like, oh yeah, we also got Two-Face and we also got all this other stuff, and also you have to use this bat sonar thing to using the cell phones. Like it, upon reviewing, there's a lot of like.
it's still like
cringeworthy stuff in
So
there.
one last thing from my
Wait,
side.
wait.
I got my last
before,
thing.
Before
You do your
DBs,
last thing.
Before wrapping up my personal taste on this, again, I liked the movie.
Yeah.
I liked Spider-Man in it. I liked all the characters. I liked how they did stuff. It was fun. My concern and the reason why I stopped reading Marvel comics and DC comics, except for like their Vertigo imprints or their like Otherworld kind of stuff, was when the world gets like when you're basically building to a Crisis on Infinite Earths, or you're building to this thing where you have to watch and read and consume the entire canon to get where you're at and to really see the full story. That to me, like part of it's because I'm a level of like completionist and collector kind of thing where I want to have the whole story.
Yeah.
But part of it is that it can become very easily disjointed and troubles. Like you have different people telling different stories in different ways, and it becomes troublesome. So if the parts are not on face, at least at a certain level, then the whole, yes, they can be the sum can be better than the total can be better than the whatever. Sum can be better than the total of its parts, or whatever. So blah 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 blah. So what I'm saying is my concern is that I'm going to just like I would, when we reach Civil War in the comics or, Doomsday 6 or whatever it is, that I'm just going to just cut it off.
Well,
I'm
the big one that
walk away.
No, well, then that's going to happen because what is the one with the Infinity Gauntlet? That's what's coming up. Cosmic
Showdown.
No, what was it called?
Gauntlet Wars. Infinity Gauntlet. That was.
Yeah, but what was the humongous comic book crossover that the Secret Wars was what it was called, and that's what we're going to be seeing.
Wait, Secret Wars is the Beyonder.
I thought Secret Wars was the Infinity Gauntlet. Okay,
that's the Beyonder and Patchworld.
That's what's happening. Thanos, blah blah blah, and you will have to watch the Guardians of the Galaxy to even get into that. So sorry.
Two last.
DB.
Now I got
Go
two
for
last
it.
things.
All right.
One. Have you seen the latest Captain America edition? And what happened? Can I spoil it for you?
The in comic books?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that. No, I read that. I didn't read the comic,
Yeah.
but I heard it.
He is Captain America is a part of Hydra.
And has been
For years. It doesn't make any sense.
What?
It's dumb.
Yeah, it's super dumb.
It's a media.
And the comic has him saying "Hail Hydra"
Yeah.
in a really dark, brooding way. All right,
But he has a stomach. He has a TV in his stomach.
Yes.
All right, second last thing, and this is the real closer. 300. Remember that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Inflated the ability of two talentless men. Singer, one of them, who directed that. Sorry, I'm thinking of Zack Snyder, not Bryan Singer.
gotcha.
Zack Snyder is the guy. Okay, sorry guys. Yeah. Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder should not be directing any movie. Bryan Singer's fine. He's not great, but he's fine.
He can live.
Yeah. Zack Snyder and the second guy. You want to take a guess?
Well, is it
Is it the actor?
Frank Miller?
No.
Oh.
Gerard Butler.
Butler.
Think of a movie he's been in since.
He's in a
That
lot of
you've
terrible
liked.
movies, but I think he's all right.
He's in every movie he does is terrible. 300 inflated his ability. He's talentless.
I don't think he's talentless, but I just think he's
He's talentless.
He's beautiful.
He's got a great six pack.
That's talent.
He is talentless.
He was good in the movie Layer Cake with.
I don't know that one.
It's a British
Missed it.
organized crime movie with
Okay.
Daniel Craig and.
okay, maybe I'll check that out.
I mean, I think
may redeem him
he's
for
on
you.
par
Yeah.
with a lot of actors who have just made better choices.
Maybe.
But he may just be making choices based on the number of zeros on the paycheck. 'Cause
Yeah, true.
He's doing a lot of,
He's just not good.
What was that movie? Like, I can't even remember.
Where he's a soccer kid?
He does
It
Olympus
looks
Has
straight up
Fallen.
Like it looks like an insanely
Yeah, I watched that.
expensive B movie. Like,
Yeah,
it
Olympus
looks
the Egypt one.
Yeah.
Oh, he did that too.
Oh, Gods and Monsters or something?
Egypt, yeah, so the gods of Egypt.
Gods of
Yeah.
That looked like, I mean, I didn't see it, but it just looks like a pile of garbage.
Yeah, exactly.
But they actually had a terrific Onion article where they were like, and the headline was like, that the movie executives actually knew about the movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't an accidental release.
He's just talentless. And you know who else is going to be two other people? I know we got to get it going here. but
No, go for
the
it.
two other people that are going to be talentless as well, we'll realize they're talentless after this show ends. Okay, two people. Kit Harington, who plays Jon Snow. No
Ooh,
talent.
Harsh.
I
No
agree with
talent.
that.
Terrible actor.
I agree with you.
Also, same show. Amelia Clarke. Not a good actress.
No,
Who's Amelia Clarke?
there's a lot of bad
Daenerys?
acting.
And she plays Khaleesi.
And honestly, one of the
Terrible
best
actress.
actresses on the show is very limited. Lena Headey.
Yeah, she's great. She's wonderful.
But she makes the same face for every
Yeah.
reaction, and it's
Who's Lena Headey?
she's
plays
Cersei.
Cersei.
Okay, you gotta use the
But Amelia
character.
Clarke, they should have replaced her when they had the chance.
So every time you see
Cersei was also in 300.
every time you
She
see
was.
every time you
She's
see
talented.
Lena Headey, just think of the words "stink face," and it's going to change your whole.
But that's Cersei.
Yeah, but I like her.
No, it's
She's
not
good.
Cersei. Cersei can hide her disdain when she needs to.
You'll realize how bad of an actress Amelia Clarke is when she gets in the same room as Cersei. It'll happen eventually, right?
Cersei's not. She's not a good actress either.
Oh, come on.
The
Lena
best
Headey.
actors and actresses are the kind of like side people.
High Sparrow's great actor. Jonathan Pierce, I think his name.
yeah.
All right. Anyway, sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He's
He's
great.
obviously
Yeah.
really good. But the a lot of the kind of like second tier characters are way
Oh,
better.
yeah. Well, they're
And-
real
and
actors.
honestly,
Yeah.
I like the guy that plays Tyrion. But he's not a
Dinklage?
great actor either.
Oh,
yeah.
Big Dinklage? What do you mean? He's great.
No. Watch him
Whoa,
with a.
I disagree on that. Peter
No.
Dinklage.
He's
class
got like
act.
he's just got like I'm gonna be smirky here, and that's all I got.
I think
And
you're-
his accent is really bad.
That's a pretty controversial statement. I don't know anyone who doesn't like.
no,
like, as
I
an
like.
actor.
I think he does great, but his all these people that they've cast, their range is not great.
I think it's a challenge in the material a little bit. Like everyone's in the their characters, they don't get a whole lot of time to play.
That
and so
might be
there's
this might be a
level of,
shooting schedule thing. That's sure.
Well, no, a lot of it too is just like every scene has like, oh, it is time to move the plot forward or
Yeah.
explain something.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because they
Yeah,
have to
there's a
cram
lot
so
of
much
material.
in.
I think that for me,
No, but the one recently where he's like, "What do you guys talk about?" You know, it's just like when we're here having a talk. What do we talk
But the
about?
scene,
And
but
it's
the
just
scene,
like,
it's
come
but the
on.
writing was so bad.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
but it, you can deliver that better.
It's a
than he
down
did.
season for Tyrion.
Yeah.
We've kind of every season with Game of Thrones you have a new flavor of the year. Like it was Tyrion at the beginning, then it kind of became Jon Snow. Now we're kind of into Bran being the favorite. It's a lot.
He was always my favorite in the book.
Oh, he's so terrible in the
I think
show though.
I think that Arya is
can't stand
in
her.
terms
Forgotten.
of like
We've forgotten
young
about
the
Tara.
young people growing into their talent. I think she's done well.
Can't stand her. Want her
She's
gone.
great. She's great in Doctor Who. She's the best, Stevie. She's so
Yeah,
good.
can't handle her.
Thanks for joining us on the Game of Thrones podcast.
Anyway,
Slash
sorry.
Marvel Universe.
Yeah, maybe
So
I should
when-
do my Howard Stern show. Another thing.
when the two merge with a time travel episode involving the X-Men,
I feel like
what will happen?
I'm getting you guys off the bad tangents here that are just
No,
taking
no.
the show in another realm.
Well,
no,
let's-
that's what
there.
we
You know
do.
what? There's one bad tangent we just haven't gone down yet, and that's your pick.
Oh.
Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived a dreamer whose only wish was to spread joy among his fellow men. But there was one problem.
Oh, baby, give it to me.
He was different.
You like that, huh? Oh, yes, I love it, baby. You want to be a disc jockey?
Very much so.
What are you, an idiot? How well you stink?
Hey, all right. So my pick, First Love, right?
Yeah. How's this your first love?
So when I was a young kid, back in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003, I was always a media fan, TV fan. I would watch everything. I would listen to everything, and it was all the same to me. It really just seemed to all kind of feel the same, until I stumbled upon something called the Howard Stern Show, which
he was 8 years old.
Yeah. By the way, I think I discovered Howard when I was about 12 or 13, and everyone immediately was like, "Holy shit, we got to figure out what to do with this kid because there is no way this guy's going to achieve anything in his life." And I want to debunk this right now because I think the Howard Stern Show is the most misunderstood entity on the planet. One of the most misunderstood entities on the planet. And that's because when I discovered this show, I didn't like it for what a lot of people think you like it for, which is nude people, vile bits, and there is a little bit of that. Actually, shock jock
stuff. Yeah,
and there is a little bit of that. It's actually decreased quite a bit over the past decade because Howard has become more mature, which is actually a better Howard in my opinion. But the Howard Stern that I loved is this realism, this new type of content that was not only just it was just a mainstream show having a real conversation, which you didn't see ever really, and that was great. You could really relate to it. You felt as though you were hanging out with the crew, and I thought that was really fascinating. And another element of the show that is excellent is that Howard has turned his entire show into essentially, and this is a friend of mine pointed this out the other day, it's the Android operating system of entertainment. And by that he means that it's not even really about Howard. It's about the world he surrounds himself with, and it's constantly being altered by not the people on the show, but the people who call in. And the callers, this is what's so fascinating, the callers who get on the show enough eventually become characters on the show themselves. So it's constantly being an Android. When I say Android, I mean it's an open source platform that is constantly being tinkered with phone manufacturers, with developers. Howard's show is constantly evolving because you have new characters coming in and out. And I thought that was fascinating, a model that had not been done before and has yet to be really successfully replicated anywhere else. Another element of Howard that I think is fascinating, besides his honesty, and yes, he's by no means a humble guy, but that's also a shtick. Like, you have to understand when you listen to Howard, it's a shtick that it's a character that appeals to we've talked about this before. There are two different audiences with Howard. There is the kind of
like the titillation people and shock,
kind of shock, and kind of like the, I don't want to say perverted, but the people who like the sex stuff, which really isn't.
Even some of those people are the characters who call in.
Yeah.
Like they become. I mean, it's to some degree he's actually like part of the gag is putting those people like kind of not punching down, but sort of like lovingly ribbing
of course,
the people who like will never kind of come out of a certain level of understanding of the show.
Of course.
And so they're the ones who can call in and like you're saying, participate within this context.
And then they become characters of the show themselves and get their own shows, and they get spin-offs, and they have reoccurring segments, and this is what the show's always evolving. I find that fascinating. But so there's that, you kind of have this like this audience that is into the shock. And then you have this very sophisticated audience as well that likes the shtick. I don't know where I fall in. I've said this before. I don't know if I'm in the sophisticated element. I hope I am, but I don't know. And the final thing I'll say about Howard is that he truly is the greatest interviewer on the planet. He really is. And he is misunderstood for just people who do not listen to him do not understand. You really have to really take it all in to understand that it's not about the nudity. It's not about the sex life. There is more to those interviews than that. Actually, if you listen to an interview now with him, or modern day Howard, you rarely hear things that are naughty. It's a conversation about real life, and most celebrities will never open up about that, but with Howard they do, and I find that fascinating. He's a true entertainer, truly the king of all media, and that is. I hope he's listening. So, by the way, he's notorious for hating podcasts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, of course,
because they're giving away for free.
Well, no, as a guy who's been in radio for all of his life, sound quality matters, like mic quality matters, like all these things that he has worked hard for for a long time.
And also, you used to have to earn it, and now you can just be like us.
push play.
But also, another thing that he hates about podcasts is he really prides himself on hard work. You know, Howard didn't just get there overnight. It took decades. People didn't understand it. A lot of people still don't understand it. But eventually, you know, it took him 20 years to get to where he needed to be, and he's still working on that. And he works really hard.
Right. Yeah. For the longest time, he was the Duke of all media.
Yeah.
And then he had to overthrow the Marquis of all media.
Well, he also had a lot of gatekeepers throughout his career that he had to fight against. He had to prove himself.
He had to continue to do that.
Yeah. Whereas now, someone who's like him can just walk in and start recording and find an audience.
That too. And he thinks that podcasts are kind of full of untalented, talentless people.
Which is true.
Listen to this one.
I mean, thankfully we've culled a lot of them out of our system. One other thing too is he's very family. He's a family oriented, and again he's gone through divorce or whatever, but more like the family of the people on his show, his engineers, the people and his listeners. Again he ribs them and he kind of has in jokes with them, but they're all part of that circle, and so I think podcasts are breaking down some of that talk radio system, and all those people's jobs depend on that, and I think he cares about that too.
Yeah, that's a really good point, John, because a lot of people think Howard's a really mean guy. And I think there are points in his life when he was younger when he admits that he was a jerk. He was trying to make it, and he kind of became a bit delusional, too into himself, and you have those moments when you become that famous. But he really is a loyal guy. He's a loyal boss. He takes everyone with him, and I think at the end of the day, he's a nice guy. And misunderstood as usual, but he really is loyal to the people that work for him. And I admire that.
Yeah, I always saw his show as he's kind of, it's a circus and he's the ringleader.
He's the straight man.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
going look at these freaks.
But I agree with you about him not only being a great interview, but he created an environment that invited everyone to speak honestly, because part of what was interesting about the show is it's very navel gazing. It's constantly analyzing itself and the people on it. He would always draw everyone in the studio into it. It's the first show that the random engineer guy becomes part of the show.
He's a character.
Not only a part of the show, but you know him.
Yeah. He's famous. If he walks down the street, people know who Scott the engineer is. And also, name me another news show or any sort of show on any medium that has a news staff dedicated to covering not actually the news, but the internal politics of the actual show. That's all they do, is they cover just what's going on at the show.
And they also would air out their own dirty laundries all the time, and very often it was a therapy session for whoever was having a personal problem at that time. And Howard himself was constantly talking about his personal life.
Of course, yeah.
Sometimes to the detriment of his personal life. He would definitely put his fame above that sometimes. I think in a way that probably hurt him. But I think it's part of what then when guests came on the show, they were just coming into this environment where that's just what you do, and it would be weird not to.
And that's what's so great about it. It's so real, right? Even Howard himself will talk about the 2 therapists he has at all times, or his night with his wife and how she got mad at him, or unfortunately his bowel movements. He talks about these things in a very real way, as anyone would. I mean, hopefully not everything, but
I think he does in some ways he does cross the line in that he's it's more than you would in polite conversation. It's more, you know what I mean? He's kind of an asshole in that way, in that he'll talk about things you shouldn't, because you're probably kind of hurting somebody or making somebody uncomfortable by doing it. And that's where I think people see him as kind of a jerk, which he kind of is. But I feel like there's enough good that comes out of it that it works. It's sort of you're kind of pushing people out of their comfort zones, and good things come out.
And then touting it all as just honesty.
Yeah,
well, it's also show me yours, I'll show you mine kind of thing. Or I'm showing you mine, I'll show me yours. And that's, he does that in multiple ways. It's, again, on the most basest way, where it's show me your tits, I'll show you my dick. And then in the, you're saying, this opening the conversation, here's my deep, dark personal secrets and fears and thoughts that will make me unpopular and will get judged. What are yours?
Or he would also just say what everyone thinks, but doesn't say that kind of stuff.
And also he calls everyone out for the BS, right? And that people are too afraid to talk about, and that's I just find that to be fascinating in a media landscape where everything is so polished and everything is so carefully.
Well,
cultivated.
that's what he did. I think that's what he should really be known for is his show, and it evolved to this over time. But his show was the alternative to radio that everyone was used to. It's like a super slick, super produced thing, and he was just like, I'm going to part the curtains and let you guys in on it. I'm going to talk to my producer in a certain way. I'm going to talk to, and it's going to be a conversation instead of this. And I remember the time when somebody would be in to promote a thing, and you have your card from the pre-interview. Oh, so you have a funny story from the last time you visited New York. What happened?
Yep.
And everything that he has built is a reaction to that, in that it's like we're different because we don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's like we have callers, but it's not like we're just going to talk to you and get you off the phone. We're going to have a caller on sometimes the whole entire episode and just talk to them the whole time. And that's what I find to be very interesting about his stuff. But I think that what makes why people are so devoted to his show is different than, I think, what, in my opinion, than what you are saying. I think that the reason why people become devoted to his show is like reality television. You want to see what's happening every day, or like soap operas. It's like you are watching a family. You are watching the minute interactions of these people that you have grown to become so intimate with that you feel like you can just call out to them on the street.
Yeah, well,
it's like
part of a
the
family.
Marvel universe.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. Well,
what happened to Pepper Potts? I gotta find out.
No. It reminds me of because they're in your ears for a long period of time during the day. I feel like that this is even though he doesn't like podcasting, I think this is another phenomenon that happens in podcasting, where you feel, oh, I know these guys from this podcast better than I would know Dan Rather on the news.
Yeah, there's something more intimate about
radio.
Yeah.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I guess maybe I wasn't getting that across originally. I mean, that's why I think people listen to it.
Yeah.
They feel like it's a real family experience.
Yeah.
They feel as though they know the people.
Yeah, and I think that it was an interesting precursor to reality. I mean, it was happening
Progenitor.
alongside.
There were documentaries
Well,
and a few other like reality, early experiments.
It's kind of there's a real connection between Howard's popularity and the popularity of a YouTuber today.
Yeah.
It's because there's this intimate connection of,
I
feel as though, for a 13-year-old boy or girl, this YouTuber is talking to me.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I feel that there is this kind of connection, and we're friends, and I want to listen to what you have to say, and you relate to me. So you're saying things that no one else on TV, on the Disney Channel, is saying, so there's that connection. It's very similar,
You're
just an older
opening toys
audience.
for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Toy opening.
But I would say, though, that if you like him, well, I guess I don't know if it's even possible, but you can his career and his kind of like bucking of the system is very similar to Dave Letterman. The early Dave Letterman shows was kind of like what the Howard Stern show became, where he's like, yeah, I'm going to turn the camera on the lighting guy or the page or what, and make them characters in my show. And he'd been doing that from the beginning. And that same kind of like, and I'm a little too young. This is the first time I'm saying this on the podcast. I'm a little too young to have been around for those early days of the Dave Letterman show that so many people that I know follow and respect. That kind of family feel that they felt while they were watching the David Letterman show, and I think that David Letterman, just like Howard Stern, was also misunderstood for that.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you say that, because Howard was always a huge fan of David Letterman's. I mean, he really respected him, and probably because of that, he would go on all the time, and he really respected David Letterman. He is very famous for despising Jay Leno. That's always a feud.
That's interesting, yeah.
Howard will say if he doesn't like someone, he'll call someone out for their bullshit, as I said earlier. And Jay Leno is one of those guys that everyone kind of wants to call out, but everyone's too afraid to do so. He from the very beginning did that. And we saw what Jay Leno really was about when he took that show over from, when he took the show back from Conan and all that drama. So, and he does the same thing for Oprah. He calls out Oprah for her bullshit. And I know everyone loves Oprah, but I don't think she's as great as everyone that says she is. He really will go after the people that really deserve to go be, that have some criticism, and no one will do it, but he will. And then eventually it's proven that he's right. And no one remembers that he's the first person to say it. And he always brings that up. Howard will be the first to say that he was the first to do something, which is part of his charm in a way.
Yeah.
So I want to get a little history. So you started listening when you're 12-ish. How were you listening to this?
So I started. I discovered him. If you remember, a long time ago. He had a show on the E channel.
Yeah.
And I discovered him on the E channel, and I started trying to find streams online. So first introduction to Howard was on the E channel when he was back on K-Rock FM. And then he moved over to satellite radio on Sirius, and then Sirius merged with XM.
That was a really big
deal
media announcement. When
of
that
course,
happened.
yeah. And he's also one of the highest, if not the highest, paid person in entertainment. Makes about $100 million a year.
And he's single-handedly, I think, floating that business.
Of course, yeah.
I know
he's the draw.
everyone I
radio.
know who has satellite radio got it for
Howard. Yeah. And now it's the show gets $100 million. I think he keeps about 80 of it. And yeah, I agree. I think that Sirius needs him, and they just resigned, and they really needed to do that, because if he didn't, I don't know where Sirius goes. I pay $15 a month just to listen to him.
Wow.
I pay more than I pay for Netflix just for Howard Stern. Think of it like that.
Yeah.
You don't listen to the radio, the Sirius radio after that?
I'm not listening to
you're
Dr.
not
Oz or the Health Show or whatever that crap is.
Yeah, I think there's people who pay for Howard, and then I think they just have deals where you get it in your car.
Yeah.
And
Well, you get it for free for 6 months,
Yeah.
and if you don't not sign up, you automatically have to start
There's also
paying for
car rental companies where that's a
Yeah.
perk. You get it.
And Howard, he still has a lot of power. He still gets. He was America's Got Talent judge on NBC. He can get other gigs, but I just don't think he'll only take something that he really wants.
Well, at this point, he can't. I mean, it's a stringent schedule to do that show every day.
Actually, the show is only 3 days a week.
Yeah.
So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They take
it's
a lot of
5
vacation.
in the morning.
Yeah. Well, they actually
get there.
they change it to a 7 a.m. Start date. From what I've been told, they have many writers on the show. It's actually there's more prepreparation that goes into this than you would think. I think they have over 10 writers on the show. Yeah, I mean there are a lot of bits.
What do they write?
Well, so during the show,
Yeah, I haven't listened in a long time.
During the show, they have it's free flowing, but he has writers giving him stuff on the fly. I mean that's a hard job to write live on the air, and they pass him notes and they pass it on the computer. You can see it. Yeah. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into it, and he has to talk for 5 hours or 4 hours a day. That's not easy, and it's but it's 3 days a week, and he gets paid quite a bit to do that, and. But he takes a lot of vacation, and whenever he takes a vacation, all the callers call in and they complain, and and then he complains. He says, "You don't understand. I work so hard, blah blah blah." So, but I think this is his last go around. I think this is his last 5-year contract, and then he'll probably be going off into the sunset, which will be very sad. But he's got so much content.
Well, he won't be going off into the sunset for himself. Like, he won't retire from showbiz. He's just going to retire from that job.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did. He's always said he wants to do some digital stuff. What that really means, I'm not entirely sure. Not podcasting.
YouTube,
not yet.
YouTube star Howard
Yeah,
Stern
YouTube
with
star Howard
producer
Stern.
David Benjamin.
Yes, I would love that. Oh. Actually, you know what? So going back to how I got involved with how I was listening when I was younger, I applied to be an intern for Howard Stern when I was about 17 or 16, I think. And I wrote this heartfelt email, and they actually got back to me. And they said, "Sorry, you've got to be 18. There's no way you're coming on this show unless you're 18 years old." But I remember one of the characters from the show who was the recruiter got back to me. I was so psyched.
That's cool.
And then I didn't really want to start working for him anymore because I just like being a fan. And you don't really want to work.
That's
there's
a good
huge
point.
fine
Yeah,
line. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to
You
have
don't
a
wanna-
career at the Howard Stern show. It's not going to happen. But I love the content, but I don't actually want to work there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like, they want to work for their favorite shows, but really it just probably would ruin the experience,
Yeah, like
right?
watching the sausage get made.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It's
yeah.
like,
And it becomes your job.
I don't want to work for Game of Thrones. I love watching it, but I don't want to be like
I wouldn't
on
mind
set.
fixing some things. On
Yeah.
the show.
Like, all right, maybe I'm wrong on that one.
I would like to work for the show if you had some kind of say. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like if I could be a
I mean,
writer on it.
you
Maybe.
you could be the third DB on that.
Yeah. He's married to Amanda Peet. Lucky guy. He's got a great career.
Who DB Weiss?
DB Weiss, or is it Benioff? One of them is.
One of the DBs.
What? Yeah.
One of the other two DBs.
Yeah, one of those guys. George R. R. Martin. That
Could you
guy's
imagine what would happen though if you were the intern on that show and your name's DB?
Maybe it would get me like. Maybe they would say, like we'd like your name. Come into
No,
the writers'
I'm
room.
sorry. I'm talking about Howard Stern. If you were an intern on Howard Stern and you were our new intern, DB's here.
Yeah, because I would have
they call
gotten on
you
the
dec-
show.
they
I
call
would've
you
had a
decibels.
chance.
Yeah.
All the interns usually they have an intern show on Howard
Yeah.
because he's got multiple networks. He can do whatever he wants
Yeah.
on Sirius. So they give him multiple channels. So yes, in conclusion, Howard is misunderstood. I think that you need to give him a shot, and I think that you will be pleasantly surprised in how great the content is, especially modern day Howard. Don't go back into the 90s.
Well, see, so that kind of bridges to where I started listening to Howard in like early 90s.
Yeah, see, that's a different Howard.
But that was like they would, I'm in Boston area or whatever, and they would air his stuff late at night. And so what I do is set my radio to tape his show. So I had like a radio with a cassette thing in it, and I could turn the volume down and record, and I could record a show and then listen to it on my Walkman or on my stereo the next day. And so I had like dozens of tapes, and I would tape over those tapes after I'd listened to everything. And that's, I would basically, my ritual was every night he was on, I would record his show, and sometimes I would rerun shows and just listen to these things. And then kind of took a break from it. When his book came out, Private Parts, I read that.
And the movie's great too.
The movie is certainly
the
all
movie.
right. I mean, he's a character. He's
All
a
right.
character. We saw that in the theater.
I'm biased.
The movie came out like that's when I listened for about 2 years, and it's when I was car commuting to college, and that's the only time in my life that I car commuted. And I'm glad I don't do that anymore. But it's a great place to like listen to radio.
Yeah.
And I was many times was stuck in traffic listening to Howard Stern, and it was right around that time that it was between the book and the movie
Yeah,
that I was like that was my peak Howard.
That's
And that was the
95,
peak of his popularity. I
96,
think
right?
97 maybe? I don't know. You'd have to look that up.
Because I remember listening while he was shooting the movie, and he kept talking about how his
He's probably
movie
complaining.
wife was hot. And
Oh, of
and
course, yes.
kissing her
And
stuff.
and Mary McCormick
Yes.
was the wife in that. And the funny thing is
Right,
that
97.
movie 97.
Yeah.
I know my Howard trivia. That was peak Howard Stern. That's when it became I am the king of all media because he had
Yeah.
the #1 movie, he had a #1 book, and he had a #1 radio show. So theoretically, he was the
was
self-proclaimed king of
It's
all
like
media.
peak ego.
Yeah, of course, and he knows that his ego is out of control, which is charming that he realizes that it is.
He's working on it.
Yeah,
Hey guys, he's working on it.
Yeah, he's been working on it. He
Give
talks
Howard a
about it
break.
all the time. How he's the complete narcissist. That he's been working on it forever, and it still hasn't really gotten any better. But he knows that.
It doesn't help to be like you're famous and tons of people adore you and stuff.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about the movie is it's all about his love for his wife. That was basically the theme. That
Yeah,
despite
it was like
all
a
the fame,
It was like a family.
it was a family
homage,
thing.
yeah.
And despite all the fame and all the raunchy humor on the show,
It did ring a little false though.
yeah, because
Because they got divorced.
they got
shortly
divorced shortly afterwards. So that's what's so interesting about the movie. I really liked it. Also, the Imus thing. How spot on was he about? So he criticized Imus all the time. So he was a terrible guy, and it came out that the guy was pretty bad later on.
yeah.
So he was right about Imus. He always hated Imus, and
It was also an early role in the film was Don Giovanni.
no,
or
you're
not
thinking
Giamatti,
Paul Giamatti
Paul Giamatti, sorry.
played Pig Virus.
Yes,
who was a real, but the NBC exec who hated Howard, an actual real person. That Paul Giamatti is one of his first roles. He was actually on the show. He talked about thank you for giving me a shot.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about how great he was and stuff.
Oh, he's a great actor.
And he's still, I mean, there are guys who are like George Takei.
Of course, yeah.
Who
he's great on the show.
is, he's already got sort of a meme level of
His character.
of respect and access to fame.
And also a great radio voice.
Yeah.
Great radio voice.
Hello.
But it really like his relevance is, and like his cultural relevance now is mostly due to his
Howard.
his
co-hosts.
exposure on Howard Stern.
Oh my! Oh my! You need to get a George Takei soundboard.
Well, the soundboards is another thing to talk
Yeah.
about. Is like
Yeah, I was gonna say I only listened for 2 years, but they're like earworms, man. Like I still like. There's still a few of them.
Well,
that,
that's Fred Norris, the infamous sidekick who rarely speaks, but is a master when it comes to audio and sound. And he just knows when to play the right bit at the right time. And people always say, Fred is the easiest job in the world. No, he's super talented. There are shows dedicated to the best hits of Fred Norris.
Now, is Billy West still on the show?
No, I don't think he. I mean, the people have come and gone. I mean, the core three are there, which is Fred, Robin, still there, who really balances Howard and the entire content pretty well, actually. I was in an elevator with her the other day. I was freaking out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was actually about 2 months ago. I was in an elevator with her.
Was there a time period where she left the show?
Well, she was very ill. She had cancer and almost died.
Oh, wow.
And she did this show from her home for a really long time, and I didn't even know, because they did an ISDN line. They kind of like figured out a way to do it.
Yeah.
I had no idea. They didn't really talk about it that much, but she was never in the studio for about a year.
That's interesting that they didn't talk about it.
They didn't.
But
They rarely talk.
she's
about
also one of the few people on the show that could draw the line and you wouldn't cross it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if she's like, I'm not talking about that.
It's part of
they
her
wouldn't
shtick.
talk
Yeah,
about it.
she. Are you talking about in terms of a personal matter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She doesn't talk about a lot of personal things. She had a boyfriend. Notoriously had a boyfriend named Mr. X. And while they always talk about boyfriends all the time and girlfriends on the show, she would never reveal the name or really any details about her boyfriend, Mr. X. To this day, no one knows who that is.
Yeah. So if someone were to get into Howard Stern, like how
tough.
do they start? I mean,
It's really hard.
do they just jump right into the deep end?
Well,
and
no.
just go for
Also,
it?
this could have been a good example for
Slow burn.
slow burns, because I really feel like you got to put some time in before you really start to see it from the way that from DB's point of view, where you really allow it to wash over you and you become kind of a part of the family.
Like,
Yeah,
should someone get go watch some YouTube stuff and then get like a serious subscription? Or like how
start with YouTube. Start with YouTube. Check out. I think the best way to start with Howard, I mean, to get into the idea of a family and understand the characters and the Whack Pack, which are these callers. The Whack Pack. It's a whole nother discussion. They're dying off in large numbers now. But to understand the internal politics and culture of the show, that's a slow burn. That takes time.
Yeah.
But to get into Howard immediately, listen to any modern day interview with him, whether it be Robert Downey Jr. or Steve Martin was on last week, was awesome. Any of these interviews you can find online, they're awesome, and you're not going to be able
if you're interested in the guests, that's your way in.
Yeah, I think if you want to get in immediately, listen to any interview with a top. He gets the top stars. He said that in the past he wasn't able to get the caliber of talent that he gets now, and that's because he would never ask anyone to come on. He would expect them to ask him, and he said like that's just such an ego trip. He's like, I realized that didn't actually work. Like, how come that never worked?
And there's also, I think, a lot of people who would be intimidating to go on the show.
Exactly. And he's matured quite a bit over the past 5 years, and I think the bigger stars are more comfortable to come on. And they
Especially
have such an
females.
especially females. And also, I think that his new wife, who he is very much so in love with, from what I could tell, named Beth, has really mellowed him and made him a better person. I actually really do believe that. And he's just a much easier guy to have a conversation with on the air now. And so the more recent interviews over the past 5 years are always stellar, and you'll find great stars on there. Like Steve Martin, try finding real interviews with that guy, that aren't just like, dumb interviews about, what'd you do today? What movie you're promoting?
what anecdote can you bring us? Yeah.
Yeah, you'll rarely find those interviews. To get into an interview about Steve Martin's father and how, the relationship he had with him while he was rising in his career, you're only going to find that kind of stuff on Howard Stern. I mean, or maybe in Steve Martin's book, but really Howard's going to dig into that.
Yeah, and who reads books?
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Except for audiobooks.
Yeah, I'd start with YouTube. Start with like a Robert Downey Jr. interview. Start with a Steve Martin interview. You'll find your favorite star on there.
And if you get into it, I mean, like, Private Parts does kind of like fill in some backstory in a biopic glossy sort of way, but
Does he ever?
If you get into it, like, it does kind of like give you kind of like a quick picture of where he came from.
Are you talking about Private Parts?
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that too. I mean, it's a funny movie. It gets the point across.
Dr. Demento shows up in it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of good bits. Like I love the Frisbee thing.
But before we move on, I wanted to know, though, you specifically picked this as first love. So would you say that this was kind of like the first media consumption kind of thing that you loved?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. This is what got me into doing radio and got me into obsessing over technology and media and entertainment.
Okay.
This was why I got into it. This is what I got. This is what led me to where I am now.
Tell us a little bit about your radio experience.
I did radio. I started doing radio when I was 14 at my high school radio station, which was actually relatively big in terms of reach. No one listened to us because the content was so crap. But
Except for Mayor Clint Eastwood.
Except for Mayor Clint Eastwood. It was a 1,000-watt radio station, which at the time was actually pretty big.
Yeah.
That was reaching about over a million people. These were like 14-year-old kids playing indie rock, and so I started there doing.
So you got to DJ and stuff
got
too?
to DJ. I had a classic rock show. This was my first show. And then I was always so.
He was playing the classics like Weezer.
Yeah. I was 14
Blink-182.
playing.
Yeah.
This was going way
Like
back.
I remember,
y'all.
like Aerosmith was like real old classic rock. for me.
Everybody, nobody better steal my sunshine.
So I started doing
Way back in the
classic rock,
vaults.
and then I moved into sports broadcasting because I love sports,
cool.
but I had no athletic ability, but I wanted to be involved in some way, so I started doing all the basketball games, and I did the football games and the baseball games, and it was kind of my way in with the jocks. Unfortunately, the ladies didn't like it. It wasn't like the radio guy wasn't the hot stuff.
We like the way you move your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I started getting into sports broadcasting, and I'd get to know the players, and it was so dumb because there were like 7 people would show up to the basketball game, so like no one was listening to the radio except like grandparents.
I did the same thing, except we didn't have radio. I was the game announcer. Like,
you did the
2 points for.
I would be there. We'd have like pre-game interviews. It'd be like, well, the Pirates here up against the Pacific Grove Breakers. This is gonna be a tough one, Andrew. Like, I had a color commentator, and like no one's listening, and there's no crowd noise, so it sometimes sounded like we were talking to ourselves in a bathroom or
So
something.
this is all very familiar to you, this experience.
Yeah.
So it's very. He's been practicing for this podcast for a long time.
Like tied. It's like tied 59-59. 1 second left. Oh, and that's gonna be the game winner. And then like there's no crowd noise anywhere, so it just sounds like I made it up in my
So you're
head.
like,
yeah, exactly.
That's what the color commentator did.
Yeah. So I did that. And football was always a nightmare because football's basketball is very easy to be a commentator on because it moves quickly. There are not a lot of breaks, but football, between each play, it's like
Gotta fill some time.
Yeah, it's a 1 yard run, and like 40 seconds. It's like it's pretty sunny outside, and you go into the weather.
Yeah, and that's why, like in the NFL, it's so much easier because you could be talking about specific players and stuff. But when it's just these high school kids,
these high
just
schools
like
who literally like, and John's favorite activity is reading comics on the weekends when he's not playing football or lifting weights or going on dates to the movie
going on
theater.
dates with Misty.
Yeah, it's.
Get it, guys?
I saw them at the school dance kissing last week, and now back to the game. It's 3rd and 19. Like also, they never kick field goals.
No.
They're going for 2 from the 20-yard line. This is interesting because there was no kicker.
Yeah, no, there's never a kicker.
Yeah, I actually got into sports broadcasting because I was on the football team, freshman football team, and I broke my wrist before the first practice because I slipped with my cleats on, and I was like, this isn't meant to be. So I'll get into sports broadcasting.
Yeah, but you could have been the kicker.
Could have been the kicker, yeah. I got the uniform. That's all that mattered. Tell you I've been wearing my uniform in the booth. Such a loser.
I'm part of the team.
In spirit.
And then, okay, so I'll go. Sorry, I'm wasting your time on my high school
No.
experiences. And then I ended up managing that high school radio station, and then I went to Northwestern in Chicago, which had a big radio, theater, media presence, and I ended up managing that radio station. I had a lot of shows there too. I did a pop culture show at 4 a.m. in the morning, which no one listened to. I had fewer listeners in Chicago on that show than I did in Carmel and Pebble Beach in high school listening to, delusional sports broadcasting.
Funny thing though, Clint Eastwood was
Listen
an
to
avid
both.
listener.
To both. Yes, he's one of my biggest fans.
Yeah.
Yes, he did not cast me in any role though.
Former mayor.
Former mayor of Carmel was a big fan of Pirates football. I'll tell you that. So, in Northwest, 4 a.m. first radio show there at WNUR 89.3 FM, which we talked
the
about.
big dial.
Yeah, the big dial. Like I go over the box office reports on Wednesday morning at 4 a.m. And then I'd also it's so ridiculous.
The already outdated.
Yeah,
like, by
outdated
Wednesday.
box office reports. Be like, like Kick-Ass was #1 at the box office this past weekend, like 4 days ago. We're already getting into the next movies. And then we talk about some celeb reports, and no one would listen. Every now and then someone like High would call up and be like, "Can you guys like play some songs?" Like, I don't know who Chloe Moritz Greats is or whatever her name is. I don't care. So then after that, I got upgraded to a show that was kind of a mix of politics and pop culture. At a primetime slot at like 9 p.m. on Sundays, and we got a few more listeners, like 10 more. And they would also call up and be like, "Can you guys play some music?" Like, no one wants to hear me talk. And then I ended up...
"Yeah, man, I remember you back in California. You used to play the golden oldies.
Yeah.
Whatever happened?"
Exactly.
Now you're talking about the mayor and stuff.
And then I ended up running that radio station, too, as a general manager. And so I had this like legacy of general managing community radio stations. Which, by the way, community radio stations are really interesting because it's very eclectic. It's very weird.
Yeah.
And I'm more of like a mainstream kind of guy when it comes to culture and media. But I was managing these radio stations where like music was like throwing spoons at the wall, and like that was their thing. And I dug it. Like I got it. And I didn't want to interfere with that, but it just didn't really mix with my taste really. So that's my radio past. I did, and obviously Howard Stern once again inspired that.
Yeah.
It really did. I never got anywhere near his.
It inspired your love for broadcasting.
Yeah, loved it. Still do to this day. I wish I could do it
great.
more.
Start a podcast.
Yeah, I'll go right against Howard Stern's wishes. Start a podcast.
Yes, but it is in the spirit of Howard
Yeah.
Stern.
Yeah, you're
So,
right.
it's just like it's the no one can tell me that I can't do this.
I bet you I'd get more listeners than I had in Pebble Beach, Carmel, KSBB 91.9.
He
Pirates
just
football.
fears the one thing that could destroy him.
When we were doing baseball broadcasts, I remember this. Baseball was actually the worst because
Yeah.
we would put a lawn chair. We run an ISDN line up on top of the dugout, and we would climb up on the dugouts, and so we'd get a better view. And we would put our lawn chairs, and there would be wind, and all our papers would be flying everywhere. We put our lawn chairs on top of the dugouts. And that's where we would do the broadcast. And so foul balls would be coming our way.
Yeah.
And that was actually even more difficult than football because, A, no one wanted to listen at all. No one cared. Not that they cared that much about football, but really didn't care about high school baseball. And B, it was just like, oh, God, between each pitch and each batter and 9 innings, it was a 4-hour broadcast. It just was a nightmare.
and being a person who played high school baseball for 4 years, they're the worst baseball games. Ever.
Nothing ever
There's
happens.
no good pitching. There's no
No one hits a home run. No one has any control. So it's like no one strikes out. There's
if you get
anything
a
hot
double
going on.
play, it's like
Yeah.
the highlight of your
Normally the
season.
broadcast would be like, and here's the pitch, ball 4,
Yep.
and another ball 4. Now we have 2 on. Oh, loads the bases. Like nothing would ever happen. No control. There'd never be a home run.
Oh, it looks like he's getting a big lead this time. Is he gonna? Nope.
Yeah, the biggest excitement was because there was no control, is when someone would get hit by a pitch. And like, oh, drama! He's hit in the back. That's really gonna sting as he walks to first. The paramedics are checking him out, even though no one would be there to check him out. You provide more color.
Yeah.
Kind of have to embellish a little bit to make it interesting.
Well, thanks again for bringing this pick. That was
And thanks for Howard for inspiring you.
Of
because
course.
it brings you to our show.
It didn't do much for me in the radio industry, unfortunately. But hey, I had fun doing it. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Cool. So again, you guys can check out Howard Stern. You can find videos of his on YouTube. You can subscribe to Sirius FM, or the big subscription digital
Satellite
radio.
radio.
Satellite.
XM.
It's
Is
pricey.
it called XM now, or
It's
is it
Sirius
still called
XM.
Sirius?
They merged, which in my opinion is an antitrust issue. Now you only have one satellite provider, but hey, who am I to be the judge in that one? It's $15 a month. It's pretty pricey.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
But if there's other, I mean, I'm sure if there's enough content on there, like if you were driving, that's your Netflix. Like if you go home every night and watch a movie for an hour or
that's how they
TV for a couple
market it,
hours, then
but Netflix is like $7.99 a month or something, right? Yeah, so
They're gonna have to
Also,
raise
there's all
prices
these
soon.
free podcasts out there. Ouch.
again, great pick. It was
Thank you.
a lot of fun to like go back and watch some of and see some of his newer skits see some of his newer shows and see where
new
he's
drama.
I encourage you to keep listening to his interviews. I mean, go beyond the skits and the bits that they write and the internal politics, but just check out some of those interviews. Great. Howard notoriously likes, also another notorious thing about Howard, he loves music. And he wishes, he loves diving into albums and he loves talking to musicians about inspiration. You should listen to those if you can. I mean,
cool.
Paul McCartney interview was great. I mean, they're great stuff.
Well, it's a nice return.
It's
And
pretty
in-
amazing. I was brushing my teeth this morning and thinking about going back on the air for the first time after surgery and how incredibly difficult that was.
Yes.
And today, not feeling anything at all. It's just a normal day. You can get up and brush your teeth and throw on your clothes and run out the door.
But never get sick again.
I plan not to.
I could never be without you again. And your beautiful face, your smile,
What, are you trying to make me cry?
your enormous
Oh, thank you for the comic
I
relief.
brought you back.
Okay.
That's right. No, seriously, I was right.
There are many possible answers, such as hard work.
Feel I'm alone in this.
everybody for listening to another episode of the New to You Show. Gang, I was one of your hosts, John Holtz. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho or snap me at Not Dead John.
Is that really your Snapchat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't tell.
And I've been another one of your hosts. My name's Keith Vincent. You can see some of my artwork on my blog at earthlingkeith.tumblr.com.
And I'm Julian Cates. You can hit me up on Twitter at Beautiful Jules or Snapchat Beautiful Jules. Beautiful Jules.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm David Benjamin. You can't really find me anywhere. I am a peruser. Is that a real? Yeah.
A lurker.
I'm a lurker on the social media platforms, but
Lurker it sounds so much more
don't make
devious.
much
You know,
content
I
creation.
good. It's a
I
lurker.
think we should come up with a different term because if you
Watcher. Watu.
a watcher.
But you know what?
I think Gigi Hadid would agree.
I can't believe I introduced you guys as VD. Where have you been?
New to me. Hello.
Hey.
But
Ooh, that's some
Guys.
good Fred.
she's like 19.
Did I go into that?
Respect her career.
I think 19 is. I don't think they'd even arrest you in Carmel.
Oh yes, in Carmel, you must be 30. Anyways,
Clint Eastwood was just able to marry.
Finally.
I would give you my Snapchat name, but I don't know it. To be completely honest, I was not to brag, I was an early adopter, and yeah. Well, you know what?
That would be. I'm glad you're not bragging because that would be the weirdest brag.
Yeah, early adopter of Snapchat. Also, bad thing to brag about. That means you were in some dirty shit. I guess you could see. Hopefully, you'll be seeing our show in 2030 on the air.
Yes.
Yeah. Sooner than that.
Snapchat, the TV show.
Yes.
Space chat.
Yeah. It's about an asteroid or a meteoroid. Sorry.
Yeah. And my Instagram name is Juan Miguel Holtez.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
I fell for that one. No, is it really?
Yeah.
Where are you getting these names?
He just makes them up.
No, that's my full
That's
name
his
in
name.
Spanish.
His Spanish name. Except
God.
Holtez.
My like social media profile names are so boring. They're like, DTB9342.
It's 'cause you're
I knew
staying
we'd
on the-
get you to admit your address, your usernames.
Yeah.
DB likes
Maybe
to
I'm
stay
just-
on the DL.
Yeah, or maybe I don't think I'm creative enough. I think that's what it is. Maybe I just need to get that's the problem.
Yeah, but
DB
then-
on the DL.
I think the
There it
challenge,
is.
though, is when you're telling someone your email address and you're like, so is it spelled like it should be spelled? You're like, no, it's like a weird word that no one's ever heard of before.
On dating applications, I know we're wrapping up here, but on dating applications, usernames, I'm on a lot of dating apps. It's garbage.
You're just lurking, though. Right?
I'm a lurker. It's research, guys.
Not a lurker. He's a viewer.
It's a watcher.
Lurker,
Watcher.
especially in a dating app sense. That's like the worst term.
Yeah.
A lurker.
Yeah.
He's not a stalker.
Also, the way I said to a lurker on dating applications just totally seems weird. But on
It sounds like paperwork. You
I'm
have
just
to
a
fill out
lurker
to
at children's playgrounds.
on OkCupid, with the default username, everyone's username ends with tacos, and I don't know why. It's so weird. It's like you don't have any. First of all, do people love tacos that much where they need to put in their dating app their username? But it's always like Kelsey Tacos 12 or like Jenny Taco XOXOXO. It's so weird.
Is that
Must be a default.
Is it like a code word?
Crazy.
I don't know, but it's always tacos.
Is it taco like the technologically aware?
I don't. It might be something that like is for the Snapchat.
Co-ed?
I don't know.
No, but isn't there like a term?
I don't know.
Everything ends with tacos.
It's like
we'll have
technically
another. If I'm
aware,
ever invited back,
something,
I'll do a
something.
whole entire show for you guys on the dating realm. It's crazy.
That'd be awesome. I don't because we are not doing that anymore.
It's a wild world.
It's what the Wild West.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I could talk about it for 7 hours. I don't want to bore you.
Well, David, it was a pleasure having you on.
Likewise.
And we'll get you back.
Yeah,
And
they don't have to.
Yeah,
You
you've been a
don't want
great guest.
Maybe
We can't
our
wait to
next
get
theme
you
will
on
be
again.
Next Love, and that's what our dating app.
Yeah, yes. I'll actually. What we could do would be really interesting is I could just invite 15 people here for Tinder and just see what happens.
Just a rotating.
We'll
guest.
just talk to all of them. Yeah. That'll get you guys some subscribers.
Here comes Miss Taco 21 and Taco Face 5566.
Telling you, it's a thing. It's weird. Everyone's username is Taco.
All right, gang. So if you want to find out more about Howard Stern or the topics on the show that we discussed, you can find those on newtoyoushow.com.
Check out our show page.
Yeah. If you want to comment to us, leave any sort of thoughts that you had on our first love topic, go on to Twitter at newtoyoushow. If you would like to, what else can people do? Oh, yeah. If you'd like to rate and review us on iTunes, that'd be awesome. We're also on Google Play. You can subscribe to us there. It's the best way to find out like when new shows go up. We've been pretty good about being up consistently on Mondays, but you'll just automatically start downloading them if you're already subscribed. So
it saves you some typing. You don't have to type in
whether it's in podcast
newtoyoushow.com. That's so hard to do.
Yep. So whether it's in podcast apps or in straight up Play or in iTunes, go check it out there. Rate and review. Also share the show with people. It may not be new to you, but make sure it's new to them.
Yeah.
Go share the show around and get more ears on us.
I want to show you one thing. Here's someone who just looked at my profile. Waffles
she got
Tacos.
Waffles Tacos 01.
Well, don't say the name.
We
Now
got her
you-
on blast. I'm going to have to delete that.
There are other things in there. You got to figure out like underscores and crap like that.
All right.
You're not going
Okay.
to find it. I don't know who it is. We're not. I'm never messaging her. Don't worry. That was the first thing.
We're just
that was like
lurking.
the third name
We're
that
just
I found
lurking,
on my profile.
guys.
Just
That's right,
lurking.
just lurking.
But was I right? That was the
Yeah,
third
that's
name.
crazy.
Tacos.
I wonder, is that not like, do they just add it in
It
randomly?
might be
at the
some
end?
underground like thing.
Huh.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not privy to it all.
Is that you'll get more hits? You got to change your name to
Yeah.
David
Tacos?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
David.
transfusion associated circulatory overload.
Yeah, I'm
That's
sure that's
the
what.
one.
I'm sure that's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it. Kids today with their overloads.
All right,
Anyway,
gang.
tune back in next week. We'll have some fun
We'll have
stuff
a new
to talk
topic,
about.
and gang.
We might not. We might be keeping. We might continue to do first loves.
Yeah.
I would love to hear about your guys' first loves.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh man.
I don't think I want to go there.
I've never felt that emotion, and I never will. I love being alone.
Perfect.
Done. My first pick, gang. It may not be new.
Maybe it's new to you. Explosion sound.
Life is all about the music. This pitiful life is all about the music.
Be with him together forever, without the limitation of time ever again. So the second coming of the Lord is not there. They're two separate entities.